Welcome back to Control, episode and we're gonna go ahead and get past the mailroom. I love this next room. The iconography here is amazing. This is Central Mail. It's where the important mail goes to keep everybody alerted, and there's this kind of NORAD style desk where everybody can do all the important work. And it's obviously highly inspired by church organs, and it just looks incredible. It has this wonderful like glow up to the sky. It looks gothic and religious, and it just really pops. It really works wonderfully.
Alberto Tomasi, head of comms.
It is an inspired visual.
Got him.
And this is the sort of thing I play games for. If I can find a game with visuals like this, I have found a really nice game. The rest of the room is minimalist, just a couple of repeated elements over and over, because they don't want you to be distracted. The rest of the room exists solely to properly contain their pipe organ. Ah, just great, just fantastic. We also can learn a little bit about some kind of op that went wrong. We don't really care about that.
Has been evaluated by the relevant authorities. The mysterious illness affecting the staff at the U.S. Embassy in Havana was
But summary. So we're gonna go into the hotline chamber. This is actually the room that made me realize I was gonna have to do an entire level focused Let's Play, because I was going from impressive room to impressive room, and I finally entered into the rando back alley maintenance tunnel, and it was just as beautiful. And I was like, okay, fine, we're gonna have to talk about levels for 40 hours, and so that's why I'm here. It's this hallway. Look how beautiful it is. You know, all of those level design posts that are like, look at all of these lines pointing to the point of action, and it's just because it's perspective, like basic perspective. But here they really do run a bunch of pipes and a bunch of, longitudinal elements up towards a very bright light, and I think it really works. It works, it works so well I'm getting the hiccups. It works fantastic. Yeah. So here we are in maintenance, getting loot. By the way, you'll notice a lot of doors are sealed off with this. This is the same sound dampening panel that we find in the shelters. I got distracted because I can already hear the phone. I want to talk briefly about this. I have a soft spot for these things that open and show cabinets that open and show electronics inside. But in this case, I have an especially soft spot for this particular cabinet because it's literally my cabinet. My job is cabinets exactly like this. These are building automation system elements. They are not from 1960. They're from 2008. In reality, they are much, much smaller. They're small enough that you curse the fact that they are small. If they were this big, I would do a jump for joy, because I would no longer have to use tiny, tiny little tweezers to get the wires in and out. There, now you've learned something, assuming that you aren't already in building automation. Here's the hotline chamber. So I'm not a big fan of the hotline chamber. This is the part of the game where I suddenly realized that, this game is not as clever as it thinks it is in terms of everything but level design. And we're going to talk about that in detail. One of the elements is the way that this room is structured. There's no way in or out of it except through tiny side doors, which doesn't really make much sense for a red carpet room like this. But of course, I understand the ins and outs of where you can access from where are constantly changing in canon, so I can forgive that. But if it's supposed to be a central high security chamber, there's not really much here. Moreover, it gets worse. Now, one of the nice things is that they're using this beautiful yellow glow. I think they're going to talk at us for 15 minutes in a second here. No? Okay. Well, this beautiful yellow glow is super rare, and it tells us that... Oh, here he comes.
The Ocean View Motel and
He's not going to tell us anything interesting. He's literally telling us that the one thing we can interact with is the thing we should interact with.
The light switch cord.
Yeah, thanks.
Door marked with the black pyramid.
Yeah, thanks. So these sorts of messages would mean a lot more if it literally wasn't the only thing we could interact with, but it is, so whatever. Presumably they did this and found that it was apparently too challenging for some people, who knows. Anyway, as I was saying, this yellow light really tells you that there's something screwy going on. And that's good, because you don't want to run off the edge and die. How do we get across? Well, we pull the light cord, right? Oh, interesting. And then over there on the left, you can see that we can now read that sign. It says the law of 3 applies. Okay.
Whoa. Have we been here before?
This is a really interesting idea.
I've stayed at a lot of roadside motels across the country. On the road, on the run, under the radar. This feels like all of them. Like something recognized from a dream.
I'm actually really fascinated by this because this looks nothing like my mind's version of motels and hotels. I dream about hotels and motels all the time, and they never look like this. So it's funny the difference between what different people think, what they think different. You know, these things look different to different people, and obviously we are able to look inside our main character's mind in this case. You can see that this air is heavy and dusty because it's got a lot of volumetric light. Nice, right? Now, the secret here is that there's a key in one of the rooms, and we have to ring this bell a couple of times to get it.
Hello? Anyone here?
There it is.
Key has a black pyramid on it.
Gosh, do you think? And I'd really like to be able to go through here into the casino. I think that would be fun. Anyway, I'm trying to think about how to say this. This is not like a failure of an idea. This is actually probably a good idea, and I know that a lot of people probably really loved this scene. But it doesn't connect to anything in the game. It's just something that happens to be here. Why would this be in front of the hotline room? Why would this randomly form a bridge? What is the connection? Is there any sort of link? No, it just happens to be here at this time in this place. And that just doesn't feel connected enough to the story of the character, to the story of her brother or her psychic companion, to the story of the building. None of it really gloms together. If you look at other games that have this kind of psychedelic stuff in them, usually the psychedelia conforms to the plotline, and it serves to reinforce the plot. For example, if you're playing Life is Strange, when Max gets stuck somewhere bizarre, it's related to Max's story. She overused her powers, or this represents her fears of what's going to happen next, and her powers are letting her get somewhere strange and get stuck somewhere strange because that intertwines with her personal story. It's the same with something like Outer Wilds, which has very similar sort of mechanics to it, but in Outer Wilds, they fit together. They reinforce each other, and the entire universe works as a giant machine with every single one of these concepts enabling and reinforcing the other concepts. But in SCP-style games, it's just, whatever happens to be here is here. And that's just, it doesn't sell the story, so it feels a little bit cheap, you know? Anyway, the only door we can interact with is this one, so I guess we'll interact with it. And of course, the Ocean View Hotel forms a bridge. Why not? So there are ways that the Ocean View Hotel could have been linked in very tightly to the story, or at least forwarded the story. It is a brilliant idea that was not given a chance to shine, and it's probably just because there's a lot of stuff in this game. So they didn't really have the opportunity to tie any of it together. We'll get to see some more dissociated stuff in a second here. I do like the sounds in this next part. Let's see if we can pull it off. We may have already heard them. There's a cutscene where the phone rings and then there's a doom, and it works really, really well. So the idea here is that this hotline is related to the Seaside Inn or whatever it was called because it's a seashell. I think that was just either it's the last remnant of something that was cleverly thought of at the beginning of the game and then dropped, or it's a desperate attempt to connect things that aren't connected. Either way, it doesn't... I can see that it would work if it were given the opportunity to, and it wasn't given the opportunity to. Right now it's teaching us to run from these things. These things don't appear to have any sort of thematic link to anything we're doing. They're just here. I guess I'm trying to think about what they could represent, or you know, what sort of relation they have to the phone. It's all just whatever, man. Woo, look at all the stuff that's gonna blow your mind, man, and that's good enough. We don't have to actually connect it. And I'm being really aggressively harsh because I hate these levels, but I mean, I'm not gonna... This is not bad by any stretch. It's just that the levels are amazing, and then the plot is like a B-.
It is a phone. It's an object of power. It doesn't connect to any typical network. A direct line to the astral plane and the board. And my hypothesis is, under the right conditions, to other planes of existence as well.
So you can see that that wasn't us watching it. It was the former director. So basically, we've just been told that it can connect to the board of directors or the former...
A director needs a team.
Director. All he's going to tell us is the name of the people that worked with him.
I have it.
Ugh.
The hotline. I can reach Trench.
We already know who worked with
Listen
him.
to him. He feels more like an echo. An echo with important info. I need to get back to Emily.
You going to keep talking for a while? Oh, good. She stopped.
People react strongly when I tell them about you.
Done?
Is it too soon to tell Emily? She might be able to help.
All right. So I wanted to comment on the visual here before we sign off for the day. This is a really good visual. It's actually made substantially stronger by the fact that it's not an inky black void behind it. It's just a bunch of these foam noise dampening spikes. But it's sort of like a Cerebro setup, right? The fact that there is a room makes it look bigger than if there was nothing at all, which is great. And you can also see that there is a lot of ambient lighting, a lot of volumetric lighting going on, which tells us that it exists in the room. There's air here. It's quite distinct from the rest of the room. This sort of lighting is often used in this specific kind of spillover, is often used in kind of romantic paintings, like of diners and stuff. I'm trying to think of the name. Now, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Otherwise, you don't. Either way, it's important that this have that bright volumetric lighting to sell the fact that it's in the middle of the room. And that's it for today. Tomorrow, we'll go back to the director's office.